Welcome to Story Mode, guys. It's me and Chris as per the usual, but now we're joined by Taylor yet again because we are talking about Gone Home.
Taylor is joining us for date, or am I joining you for date night, or is
Taylor joining us?
Yeah, you're being the third
Story
wheel
mode.
right now. This is the
Thanks.
third wheel story mode.
No, there's a reason I chose Chuck E. Cheese's as our date night venue, so we could all have fun, guys.
Good thing they sell beer here.
and so that Burtis wouldn't come because he's played too much Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, right.
Bother showing up to anything like this.
That's a very good point. Yeah, so if you guys have been following, we did Gone Home. It took us about 6 episodes. The final one just went up last week. And it's a short game. It's an indie game, and I thought it was wonderful.
It was probably one of the more beautiful games I've played in a long time, especially how short the game was.
Especially with the way it does, how you play it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Chris actually, and literally just said before this all started, has the advantage over us.
Yeah,
you played it less than 24 hours ago.
Well, it's a short game. You can play it really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine if you kind of know everything.
Sort of. It's even not even because it's not like it's a huge maze. I think the first time I played it, like the timer on my Steam thing was like 75 minutes, and like today it was like 2 hours. So it's probably like a little bit longer. So it took me like an hour and 15 minutes the first time to play through it, and probably about an hour, a little bit longer than an hour the second, because I knew where things were. But even then, like, I realized that I had missed a few things the first time through, and like I was kind of going back and checking a couple places. But so we're talking Gone Home this week.
Yeah.
A narrative game for narrative people, so perfect for story mode.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And it's...
I really like that we're going to do this game because it's sort of... For some of the last ones, I think either A, the stories are so huge or so all over the place, it's hard to pick something to focus on. Yeah. This one's nice and short, but the story is still really tight. And it's... What I really like about it is, as I played this the second time, I actually started to find like things that... It's like, oh, this is some kind of weaknesses to this story that I didn't really see the first time I experience. And so, like, it's really great to have a game that, at the very least, I can talk about, like, strengths and weaknesses of the story, and that's, like...
And that's it.
But not necessarily it. Yeah. Like, there's more to it than that, but, like, you really can sit down there and kind of massage that story in that way. And just sort of, not a lot of games let you do that.
Because I would never say, like, because it is a video game, I wouldn't say that the gameplay is a weakness, because the gameplay is, in my mind, absolutely integral in how the narrative has to play out. Mm-hmm. Like, if anything else happened, like if he had to all of a sudden grab a vacuum cleaner and get the ghost of Oscar, that would be weird. But, I don't know where that came from. But
someone has his mind on Luigi's Mansion.
Probably. Anyways.
Maybe that's what our... No.
When you first play the game, if you've never, like, I went in cold feet, didn't know what Gone Home was really about. I had a lot of friends tell me, you really need to play this game. It's up your alley, and I didn't know what I was going into because house in the middle of woods. It's storming and no one's home.
So you thought it was a horror game?
I thought it was a horror game.
That's part of what's really great about Gone Home. And actually, I want to kind of take this moment at least to be like, yes, we're going to go into like tons of spoilers about Gone Home. It's pretty hard not to. So if you are someone who like at all is interested in playing this game and you haven't yet, turn us off. Yeah. Go play it. Come back in an hour and a half.
You play the game, or honestly, 6 episodes. Watch them.
Part of what's like really works about the game is it sort of plays with your expectations of what the video game's going to be. Like if you know very little about it other than like the title screen, Gone Home, you go to a house in the middle of nowhere and there's no one home. That's all you need to know, and that you'll have a fine time with this game.
Well, the game plays with your expectations like right away. You and I were kind of talking about this yesterday, and how, I mean, when you walk in, you instantly some of the first few items in the foyer that you find, I believe, tell you that there's something just kind of strange with the uncle. He was a hermit. He's out in the middle of this woods by himself.
That was in the hallway. That was in the hallway.
Oh yeah.
But no, the first thing that you get are the voicemails.
Oh yeah,
Sam,
that's most likely.
And I was like, all right, no, this is creepy because you hear the crying over the phone, and I'm like, that's what really got me thinking this was gonna be a horror game. And I was like, find a dead body.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the hallway that you learned when you looked at the obituary in that one drawer that you realized that the uncle was kind of a hermit.
Yeah, kind of a weirdo at that.
Well,
just from other
also
evidence.
A child molester, but
which I missed.
We didn't.
I I was watching you guys. Taylor actually picked it up pretty keenly. I was like, wow, she jumped on that really fast.
Well, because I realized, like...
Because there's some people, there's like a whole, like, giant essay that someone, like, really went in depth, and, like, Taylor pulled it out in seconds. What this guy did. Yeah, this professional journalist took, like, 10 paragraphs to say. Taylor gets in, like, 3 sentences in the middle of this thing. It's just like, that's impressive.
Linguistics.
It is one of those things where...
Guys, I'm so happy. I just got a really good compliment. So. Well, actually, it wasn't until we went down that safe in the basement where he's apologizing.
You also guessed the password.
1963 kept popping up. I'm like, this has to mean something somewhere.
What's weird is it's also like the one you'd expect least likely to have that as its code.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think I explained it in the story mode. My mom was born in 1963, so that was like our passcodes for everything when we were kids. So it was a bit of a jarring moment for me that 1963 opened the safe.
And had that info.
But there also are some smaller side stories, like Oscar being a child molester and the father being a failed writer.
But also...
not a failed writer.
Then the mother having an affair.
Or she was in love with somebody, but she didn't physically have an affair with them.
Well, it's not just that, like, she was in love with some guy, but it's also the guy was playing her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah. Because, he used her to get a higher position,
and then invited her to his wedding.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, I was just like, man, what an a-hole.
That is a definition of assholery.
But anyways, with us geeking out over all these great moments, there's one pretty much central story to the whole thing, and that's what happened to Sam.
Sort of. I mean, that's sort of the central guiding story that you're most likely to get everything about. But obviously, usually I was talking about, there's a story about pretty much every family member that's lived in the house. Yeah. With the exception of you, the main character.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
No, you do. When you
get your postcards. But even that is just sort of like, here's where she was. Yeah. It's like they really don't give any information as to like what kind of anything.
Katie is.
Yeah. It's just like, I went to Paris, and I went to Spain, and I went to London.
Yeah.
And it's like, aren't you lucky to get in all those places? Bert.
Yeah, right.
Our DP who goes out on world journeys to Asia and Europe and leaves us behind.
I was going to say, and now it's the jungle of New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I don't know. I've got a whole bunch of, like, minor notes sort of talking about going home. Actually, one of the things I kind of want to talk about is how... Because you want to talk about, like, the gameplay element of it. And the one thing I realized as I was playing through it is how it does a really effective job of telling a story through just props.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like this is really simple sort of gameplay element idea that a lot of games do, but, like, I don't think I've seen a game quite as effectively do it as Gone Home does. Like, most props mean something. Most of them feel like they belong where you find them too. There are a few, there are a couple too many of Sam's folders laying around in random spots in the house. Would be my biggest criticism of it in that terms. But usually, for the most part, some of them make sense. Like, you go to, like, the back corner room of the basement, and it's like where they're clipping together their like newsletter thing. And it's like, oh, well, it makes sense because that's where they're doing this. It's like you go to a room and you find other notes, and it's like, okay, so some of these make sense. But then there are a few where it's like, why is this in the middle of the den? This note that it's just here?
Yeah.
Why did this just get left here?
I mean,
there's a little bit of like, well, it has to be a game at some point, but
right. And like, just looking at it purely on like from I guess if you were say like game designer in this, as I could think of it as like production designer, because they made a complete home, if you will. Mm-hmm. I mean, every room had stuff. The parents' bedroom was messy, and or I believe the blankets were like thrown about and all this other stuff.
The bed was made. Sam went to the drawers.
Oh, that's right. You had just all these items that when you found them, you're right, it absolutely makes sense where they were, and it said so much about the character that you were looking at.
It does very effectively the thing that I think a lot of games sometimes ignore much to their detriment, which is, I brought this up several times, to me the biggest thing in a game that makes me really love it is creating a world that feels real, whole, and like I could just walk into it, like. And this is so much that. Yeah. In just a very simple, realistic fashion. Like, and more so than almost anything else. Because, like, you could literally find a house exactly like this. And probably find a lot of very similar things just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very, very real world building at this point.
But not only that, just very real characters.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's also, not that, and it's... It was one of those things where I kind of was wondering why they said it during the 90s. There's some things that I kind of got as I kind of went along. It's like, well, you can kind of have the note, the hand me notes that you have written on pieces of paper, but there's no reason you couldn't find like, I mean, I guess then you'd find all the notes at the same time on a computer or on somebody's phone somewhere.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be quite as effective.
I think they also wanted to touch on a lot of the music. The music that was there were very 90s feminist rock that
the whole soundtrack itself is very indicative of the time, which I think I don't think there's maybe a central answer to why the 90s, but I think that has a lot to do with it. And gameplay element, I mean, just the notes.
Yeah.
It'd have to be.
The one thing I will say I did like about is the way they constructed the 90s, where it's not like you just like 90s. It's like right in your face. It's kind of like you kind of walk around and there's just really subtle. It's like, yeah, it's the 90s. Like the dad's reviewing a Laserdisc player. Which is like, that's fantastic. I remember Laserdiscs.
Even when you look at like some of the magazine covers that you find.
It's like like one mentions like Kurt Cobain had just passed away. And then there's some others like you can find like the X-Files I Want to Believe. Room, and then like just several references to the X-Files.
There was a TV guide
that makes sense.
in the one room.
Oh my god,
there was a TV guide. And like so it wasn't like in your face. I mean, you could kind of pick up the elements very easily because you looked at your baggage, and when you look at the family portrait, those hairstyles are very nice.
But yeah,
I have family photos with me with some of those hairstyles.
Or you.
Ew. It's just one of the it's very subtle. It's just I just feel like I'm just saying the same things to you guys because I think it was awesome. Like it was awesome.
Really, Ben? That's all you have to say?
Yes.
Get out of here.
Chris and I will have an intelligent conversation.
You're banished from story mode.
Alright, guys.
This is the worst footsteps.
Yeah, that's really worked.
Fully I've ever heard.
I would like to see how that would actually look. Anyways. The other thing I liked, just by when you like follow Sam in a relationship with Lonnie, all the little things that you go, oh, that's cute. The one that sticks out to me is when you, it's like near the end of the game. I think this is the only time you can access it near the end of the game, is you find the map that reveals, oh, there's a panel right next to the stairs.
Yeah.
You go behind there, and then there's the like Satan symbol with the picture of Oscar. And by that point, you know, like, oh yeah, this isn't a horror game, but like. It's just cute because you see these two kids were letting their imaginations kind of run crazy and wild, and it was...
They're not really kids, though. They were in high school. One was going into the army. One was...
We can tell who's in their young 20s in this.
Yeah, the three of us.
They're not kids. They're 17. They're kids.
They're 10 years younger than me. They're kids.
I guess I was just saying, like using their... Just putting them on acid, they didn't see that they were like 12 and 13. Like, we do want to put on the acid, but these kids were teenagers. Well, it's very obvious they're teenagers. But
yeah, and
they're teens, yeah.
Teenagers.
They're definitely teens. Although the one thing that I would say is, in terms of at least writing them, that kind of messes, like, they do feel almost at times a bit younger, but also a bit older. Every once in a while, Sam would have lines that occasionally like, "This is way too erudite for a 17-year-old," and there's this extreme lack of swearing in this game.
Oh yeah, which
especially from 17-year-old girls, who they swear. They swear just as much, probably more than 17-year-old guys.
Yeah, and I'm literally trying to make sure that Taylor does not try to protest that.
I'm not protesting that at all. I know I've got a bad mouth on me.
No, you shouldn't be, because I've been around you enough to know that. You swear too. I remember my sister when she was, that age. And she's deaf, but one of the words she could definitely say was
That's amazing.
But yeah, so that was probably, in terms of at least writing, that was my biggest thing against it. Was like,
now that you bring that up.
But as far as things go, the one thing that brought it back together was the girl who performed Sam was fantastic.
Yes.
It's one of those where it's like, if they had an award for best performance in a video game, female performance, stuff like that, I'd give it to her for that year. Although I realize that one of the things she'd go up against is Ellie from Last of Us, which is also
that'd be a tough call.
Another really, really, really good one. It's just but they're good for very different reasons.
Right.
Yeah. Just the emotions she put into those narratives, it pulled you into it too.
Yeah, I was excited.
They make her really likable, just the way she's played. It's because you don't get to see her, or you don't get to really you kind of see the effects of some of her actions, and like what's left for you to see is actually would make you dislike this character at the end. Because the end of the story is she steals everything, of value in the house, including things that they don't technically own, like the Laserdisc player.
Yeah.
So they can run off. It's just like, that's not the most empathetic ending I can think of for these kids.
But also, 17, they don't exactly think these things through. But one of the things that made me really like Sam, though, was her assignment on the menstrual cycle. I was like, I really love Sam. This was just like, it was just such a fuck you.
That was one. Yeah, that's one of the. That's because that's another thing. Again, talking about the props is they used them a lot of ways to really effectively build characters that you get like. I feel like sometimes you get so much more from Sam from reading some of those things like that than you do from her journals.
Yeah. Or even like the Captain Allegra stuff.
Yeah. Or even the one other thing I kind of was like missing is like, I'm glad they had at least a few of these, but I'm like, I don't know, maybe this is something more for that guys did, but like the doodles on those sheets of paper. Yeah. There's like, that's all that my sheets of paper are filled with from high school is like stick figure doodles of people and crap like that.
Same. Mine were mermaids.
And it's like, it's sort of like, that was one of the things I think was missing the most from those. It's just like there need to be more of these little doodles. Yeah. Not enough doodles. Dear Gone Home. Not enough doodles.
How many O's was that?
Too many.
Okay.
Enough to make up for how little doodles they had.
So with what happens at the end, does that make you like kind of like not care for the ending, or does that make you just like have a weird disposition against Sam?
Sort of. I mean, I don't start to dislike her. Of course, one more thing is when I played through it the first time, because I replayed it when I replayed it previously, I didn't get the like last journal entry, which is the journal entry that's about Lonnie is gone, she's on her way at the bus stop and calls back and it's like, Sam, I can't do it, and then they run off together. I didn't know that happened. That's actually a pretty big point of the story, and you can miss that. You can get to the end of the game and not see that.
Well, by the time you get in the attic, you're pretty much like get to the end.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too is I don't know how much you guys felt about this, but the first time I played it, when it was time to go to the attic, I thought, I'm going to find her dead body there.
I thought that too.
Same.
We thought that too.
It is very much kind of planned as like, this didn't suddenly turn back into a horror game in the last couple of minutes, did it? Oh my gosh.
Not like a horror, but like
because I was like I was in my own head in a rush, like I walked right past that note because I wanted to find out what had happened for real. Yeah. Only to miss like one of the most important plot points to the game that at least changes Sam's personality. Because to me, it's like, I really, really liked the way the story ended without that, where it's like they parted ways and it's like, then they went off on their own lives and just had to go off and continue doing that because that's kind of how pretty much any teenage romance goes. Yeah. Like 95-99% of them, that's how they end. Is most teenagers would love to think that the person they're with in high school is like, I'm going to stay with them my whole life. That's probably not going to happen. Right. Sorry to break your heart. Yeah. But it's not impossible. It's just like one of those things that's realistic. I understand that and relate to it a little better, I guess. Yeah. But like the other one was just like, and now they're also thieves. I don't feel so great about these characters anymore. But maybe that's part of what you're supposed to feel like, because it's not like, I don't think they kind of set it up to be like, oh yeah, these are perfect characters. You're supposed to feel really sorry for them. It's like, no, you don't have to. Like they're very mixed.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what makes them very real. And actually, that's what I was going to bring up is the way you mentioned how we can get to the attic and you rushed to the end, and we pretty much almost did the same thing because we thought dead body. I'm like, did you going through this game put you in the perspective of the sister, and you were kind of more you not only are you playing the sister, but you are also in many different ways thinking.
Here's another one of my probably one of my favorite little moments in the game that's like really predictive of just people in general. Maybe you guys caught this or not, but there's a note like that you can run across right in front of Sam's room early in the game that's like from her dad. It's like, stop leaving all the lights on in the room. You're just as bad as your sister. Which is fantastic to run across because what you've likely been doing, because you think you're playing a horror game, is leaving on all the lights as you walk through the house.
I didn't. I stopped doing it.
Taylor would like turn off every light and shut every door.
Because when I played it the second time, I was doing that with closets. I was like, close this closet door, and then even like the secret was like, I don't need this open. But the other thing that was weird too, because when I when I played, you guys go downstairs, which is kind of the way you're supposed to go. I went upstairs first and found that secret room that brings you down to the library, which I realized made things very hard to, not like hard, but I kept walking into like dark rooms from the wrong side. So I'd have to like, and like I was playing on a monitor that I probably had just slightly too dark, so I'm like wandering through a dark, hoping that like my thing will land on the Q button to like, all right, there's the light. I think I found it. If I were actually playing for the first time, it would have been way more scary.
Yeah, right.
Because it's just like, where am I? Something's going to pop out of me as soon as I turn on this light.
When we were playing through that weather alert that was going off, I was like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys had a weather alert?
Like when you went into the one TV room, that's the weather alert.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that when you get to the game, you're kind of fully like into perspective of the character for many different reasons. And I think that's why...
Well, I think that's part of why she's thinly written, is that you're not supposed to feel like you can't just step right into this character.
But I think that's why it makes the ending so effective. It's like bittersweet that you're like, I'm glad you're happy, but I feel like personally it's not going to pan out the way she thinks it's going to, just because... There already seems to be enough.
You can almost guarantee. I imagine that like the next part of that story is you go to a phone and call the police. That your sister's stolen a bunch of things and like needs to be brought home. Can you bring her home, please?
Yeah.
Thank God
there are a couple of idiot 17-year-olds. Please just get them back here.
Thank God we didn't find her dead body though. But I love what I would put as the turning point in the game. As far as I don't know, that's a really kind of a big way to put it. But it's the bathroom.
Well, it could be different for different people, but that's most likely what it's going to be, because all the entries you get up to that point, and there's still most things point you toward like Ghost, and like there's still a couple things like that. That is kind of the moment where, it just did out very readily, because it's like, you walk into the bathroom and you see what looks like blood on the tub, and then you get close and you realize it's hair dye.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that should be the moment, for most people that they realize the game is pretty much playing with you, and that like from this point on the game is changing, and then you get the very emotional diary story that's very clearly about something different, that's not about ghosts or monsters.
Yeah, or
is it?
I mean, technically, you could say by the way that Sam's parents kind of handled the situation.
Oh, I mean, her dad especially. But...
Sort of. I mean, that's one of the things that I actually want to touch on, because one of the things I realized when I was replaying it the second time through is, a lot of people gave it shit about, like, it's a story about lesbians, and that's why it's really artistic and people love it. It's really not.
Yeah.
Like, you could change the gender of Lonnie into being a guy, and the story would pretty much play exactly the same.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's really nothing about it, like, because think about this, a girl who likes an army brat, period, would just be, for most parents, it'd be something that they wouldn't like.
Yeah.
And, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to be like, that's why they disagree with it. Like, the whole her being gay comes up literally, like, twice. And it's not even that big of a thing.
Yeah, the only thing...
It's usually, like, a subtextual thing that kind of reminds you of... it's almost a reminder of where we are now as opposed to where we are in the 90s.
But you'll find small details where
and they kind of
parents don't appreciate. Like there was one about
they call it just a phase.
That's pretty much the one I'm talking about the only one.
But there's also something about LGBTQ. Like they would send these kids to correction camps. And one of the things I found, I was like, oh my god! Like I originally had thought like this had took a turn for the very, very worst.
Was there it was like a dumb pamphlet you could find somewhere or something?
Yes, it was when you exited the basement and there's an armchair there, you found a pamphlet about it.
Which is really interesting when you find some of that stuff and all the religious kind of tones from the dad, especially considering what happened to him, or you find out what happened to him.
I haven't missed any.
I think there were a few
like the most you could find is like, they got a Bible on the side.
There's a Bible, I believe, in every table, in every room. No,
there's a Bible in the parents' bedroom.
There's a Bible in the parents' bedroom, and in like the front hall.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
There's a couple crosses hanging out.
Yeah.
But like that would be in any house that's even goes to church once a week. That's what you find. So I wouldn't even be like, oh yeah, they're totally religious. Like that's an average 90s Christian home. Like they could be going to church on Christmas and Easter, and that's it. And that would be totally believable that they had Bibles in those spots.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's fair.
But there's no way to like. I feel like there's really not much to read into like. Yeah, because I think that's and I think that's intentional because they want it to make it accessible to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
You want to feel that you can relate to the story too, and if it becomes very much about gay people, not to be like, oh, gay people shouldn't have stories about them, but it's like it's still kind of narrows down a story to who's going to relate to it very well to a much smaller group of people than like anybody who's ever had like any experience of love or just like troubles in their life.
Yeah.
But also,
it is a game about relationships.
Feeling just like an outsider, because that's also really that's a lot of what it's about. It's not about her feeling like an outsider because she's a lesbian. It's because of where she lives and how just the kids treat her because she's new at school. It's like, and because almost anybody could relate to that.
Yeah. Also, anyone who has a loved one who is gay, who's best friend, family, like, you feel from Katie's point of view that empathy and that heartbreak that she's going through the struggle just because of something she can't control.
Right.
So you also get that sense of empathy, of heartbreak that, you weren't there to help her. I think that was one of the big things that kicked me, was that if Katie was home at this time, things may have gone a little bit easier.
Maybe, because that's the only problem.
You don't know about Katie.
Because you don't know enough about Katie to know that maybe she's like follows. It is kind of religious. Or
that's
something
what I was.
Maybe she would make things worse. Because like you're again, this is one of the things that's great about having a character that you don't know a lot about, because you can kind of project your own ideas onto it, and you're kind of creating this.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like in my mind,
I would have been the sympathetic one.
I would have been like fighting with my parents if that was my sister. Like I would have fought tooth and nail.
I think that's maybe one of the things that they miss, because the one thing that they do try and do as you go through the game a little bit is like sometimes you'll get for the pickup, since like open doors, it says like ew, or it gives you little details about something.
Oh, when she picks up that one letter in the basement by Lonnie's room where it's that thing about her having sex with Lonnie, and she's like, all right, I'm not reading that anymore.
Ew, no, ew.
And then, you can't even pick it up again.
Yeah.
No.
But like I feel like they missed an opportunity to like actually do more with that, because I like remember you find when I was playing through the gaming, I was like, oh, I forgot about these. There's kind of a good reason I did, because there's not enough of them. Like that's another thing. If I were to pull out like a weakness of the game overall, there could have been a lot of building your character with that. Yeah,
because I think that's like one of two times that happens is when you look at that and I go, ew, no, ew.
There are a few like that. Like you can find. And one of the most humorous ones is you can find like your dad's like porno magazine.
Oh yeah,
like, really?
But then you can find Sam's later, which is the exact same brand of magazine, and it's the exact same thing, only about whoa dad or whoa Sam. And it's just like that's pretty good. Which is like there needed to be more of that.
Yeah.
In general, it's like one of the things I liked about it is it had just this nice sense of humor at times that like I think needed to come out more.
Right.
And oddly, most often came out with the dad character, which is weird because he's also the most tragic character in the story.
Yeah.
And
oddly,
definitely.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone is more tragic than the dad. You can't really I don't want to be like it's a competition, but it's like
it's a competition.
Yeah, we've got our set, I guess, competing with us for making noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it has had enough.
Because tragedy's not a competition, but it's just like I don't think any of the, at least it's what we've seen from what you can pull out from the game, is like no one really has anything in their backstory that could be potentially as just tragic as he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because when it came to his book, I think we saw a letter from both Oscar and his father was saying you could do better.
Oh yeah,
which was like
his dad was such a dick.
And then Oscar was really congratulating him on everything and the wedding and everything, and it's just.
But it's also weird though, because when you
know, it's like, wow, dude, you don't know when to back off.
Sort of, because that was the one thing. It's like it's very much left up to open your interpretation. They don't say that that's what happened, that Oscar molested this guy.
Yeah.
And the one thing that keeps me from being like, oh yeah, that definitely happened is, why would any adult person move into a house where they were molested as a kid?
Right.
Is that to me is like just this one thing. It's just like there's either a story explanation you're missing about how they couldn't sell this house or something that you could have come across very easily. But that to me is like the one thing that leaves it kind of really ambiguous as to whether or not you can actually say that.
One of the things that would kind of
because it's just like, would you really do that if you were an adult? Like, it'd just be no. Like, why? Like, that just bring up all kinds of bad things.
One of the things that gave me the hint was the measurements of the dad in the basement. Like,
that's
it
pretty
wasn't
much
anywhere else in the house, like where you normally find it, like the kitchen or the living room. It was downstairs in the corner of the servants' quarters, where like you're away from people. Like that was what kind of tipped me off, and I'm like, that something isn't right here. But also, I think. The dad also had one of the best resolutions because towards the end...
because this is one of the things I wanted to bring up is, for a feminist game, where you could definitely call this a feminist game, somewhat ironically, I think the dad has the most compelling story.
Yeah.
Because not only is it also, he's also the only one that gets like a happy ending to it too.
Yeah.
Because like the moms is sort of like also, you know, they're going off to go work on their marriage. It's like, okay, that's hopeful at least a little bit, but there's still like a lot of tragedy that happens before hers to push to that point.
Yeah.
Sam's is obviously very mixed up, and like it's very ambiguous how you can feel about their ending. Like you're left to feel like, oh, that's nice that they found each other and are going off together, or you can feel like, haven't you two read Romeo and Juliet? They had that as an assignment in your class, right? There's a reason you read that in high school.
Yeah.
But then there's the dad who gets like this whole story of, you can see how things are not going well for him, and then you see this shift, and you see him like not only take that shift, but also then move into a more positive direction where it's like now he's not only just writing, but he's also writing and working through his own troubles. It's like, that's really impressive and just really compelling and interesting, and it's also, I think, one of the best told through the props, because you can kind of pick up his books, you can see his old books, from the old original publishing company, and then you see the new ones from the new company that picked him up. And it's just like, you get this, it's this really satisfying feeling that I don't think you quite feel from any of the other storylines.
Well, and to kind of put another spin on it, if we're going with a concrete, or if we're going for sure with the idea that maybe he was molested, like, let's just say he was. Think about his writing then.
Yeah.
He never used it. He was a character that kind of pushed through it and never really brought it up ever again. I don't think maybe out of any shelteredness, because if he was a writer, it would come out somewhere. But from what you get from the books, it doesn't come up anywhere. He's a character that was strong enough to push through that. If you want to go with that interpretation.
Yeah.
So he's really...
Even then, if you go with the idea that it was mostly just the fact that he moved into that house and is making a better life, you can tell by the end of at least his story that things are getting better for him. And just that alone is like, that's impressive and motivating alone.
This is a weird question. I can't remember. Is it ever revealed who probably initiated the marriage counseling? Was it the dad who said, hey, let's go to this camping trip?
No, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay. That's something I'd be interested in. It's just like, did he know about his wife's feelings for this other man?
Or did they finally just kind of just hash it out?
Did they just have a fight one night and said, look, let's just do this and try to fix things? That'd be something I'd be a little
because that's one of the stories that's left a little even more vague. Is the kind of status of that.
Yeah. Which, if anybody found anything we didn't, let us know.
Yeah, because...
I can't... From what I also did a little bit of research about the game to see if I missed anything, and I don't think I found anything. Or I don't think we missed anything.
Yeah.
But...
I also think that's also something they maybe have left it ambiguous on purpose, because it would just be a distraction to the main story.
That's true.
Well, I mean, sort of. I mean, you get a lot about the dad's actual storyline.
Yeah. That is true.
So it's sort of like the idea of to be distracting is like, that's part of, I think, what makes Gone Home really effective is that there's not just this one central story and that's it. There's a couple stories spread out. It's like, there's even the whole thing about like, you can kind of really dig, if you're really paying attention, you can find the stories about Oscar.
Exactly.
About him selling the pharmacy and...
Well, and it wasn't so much that he sold the farm. He was kind of screwed out of it from what I understood, no?
He did it to kind of show his sister, or the dad's mother, that like he was a changed man.
Oh, okay.
And so he became kind of a recluse after he sold the pharmacy.
No, I mean that much I knew, but because that's why Sam was called the Psycho Girl, because of
the psycho house.
Because everybody thought that this guy was crazy.
Yeah.
I guess because we kind of plowed through so much of this to maybe start going towards the end game of the story mode. It is interesting that the dad has probably the most memorable story.
Well, I don't know about
memorable, but like it's one of the stronger side stories.
I just think it's the most compelling and the most, at least from a standard storytelling perspective, where you can kind of you know how you feel about the dad's story at the end of it, whereas you don't necessarily know how you feel about Sam and Lonnie at the end, because they at the very end pull a kind of a dick move that makes you go like, well, I was totally supportive until you guys stole all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've addressed the fact that this is a feminist game, and it got a lot of flack during the whole...
Well, it got flack because it's... And I can kind of see why, because when it came out first, it was $20, which is that's a bit overpriced for this game.
God,
$10 is probably about right.
Yeah.
I can see why, because it's still the development probably effort that went into it was probably still a bit more than the average game, but still like you shouldn't be paying more than like you'd pay for a movie. Like it's because it's about the same length as a movie. It's just like that should be about the kind of pricing of this,
right?
And I think that's part of I think that was probably part of what really pushed that kind of attitude, is that people then expected it to be like a big, long, involved game because people really loved it, but it's not. It's this very short but very concise, well-told story that you experience through the way that you walk through this house. And now obviously the contentious idea, it's like, you don't shoot anybody in this game.
It's a game that has no action of any kind. I don't know, like action in terms of, there's certainly things you can do, and there's certainly, because there's also at least small bits of puzzles, you have to find the key to open the door, and you had to find locker combinations to open certain safes. You had to find maps to know where these panels were, hidden panels to find.
You don't actually have to find the maps to find them.
Well, I guess if you're playing through it again, would you know then I remember this
You can
panel?
beat the game in less than a minute, in all actuality, because that first panel is not unlocked. You can literally walk straight forward to the right of the stairwell, open the secret door, walk up the stairs and go, you can beat it in less than... I think there's an achievement for it on the Xbox.
No shit.
So go back and do that.
I really want to try that.
Yeah.
It'll take you guys 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Unless you fail, in which case you'll need to do it again.
I would like to see more games like this. I wouldn't want to pay $20.
Well, I've got Firewatch on my computer.
Is that another similar...
So, it's kind of another... people like to sort of derogatorily call them walking simulators, which I don't like.
Yeah.
I just kind of like more of the... What is it?
A visual exploration game.
No, I didn't like that. There's too many words. It's just it's just a narrative game.
Yeah.
And it's it's the narrative is the thing that they found important about this, not the gameplay so much. And it doesn't say that the gameplay isn't essential to understanding the narrative. It's very much wed into it. But... it's obviously a narrative first game, which for us on story mode, that's great. That's exactly what we need.
So that's all we're looking for, please.
Because the only other thing that I really have is a giant note that's sort of and I guess this is an interesting spot to maybe kind of start to tie things back together. But when I rebooted it to play it, I kind of stuck myself on the title screen for a while. And the title screen I feel is a really great sort of summation of the whole game to a degree. Because it starts out, it has this kind of booming, ominous music, and you're like, oh crap, I'm playing a horror game.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and kind of sit there with the image for long enough, because in most games, you're probably doing the first menu for 20 seconds. Because you're like, I want to play the game. And it's the second time through is when you're going to stop and sit here. The music kind of slowly changes from very ominous to somber and kind of melancholy. And then you'll kind of notice on the title screen, it's not really that dark. There's this starry sky in the back, and there's this splash of red, the sun setting behind the house. And you realize it's actually not quite. And there's this one light on, but not. The rest of the house isn't dark. It's just dimmed. Yeah. It's sort of you kind of start to realize it's oh, this maybe isn't horror. It's kind of playing the same thing the rest of the game plays with you, and it's kind of this really nice moment of, I don't know. I don't know. I really like a title screen that kind of does that. Though I think the one note I have, it reminded me a lot of, again, I brought this up the second time because it came out the same year, is The Last of Us loading screen. Mm-hmm. Where it sort of just, it very well puts you into this mood of what you're going to do when you're playing this game. Because, the one thing I really remember loving about The Last of Us is it disguises its loading screen beyond. There's just this, the spores kind of spreading around, and you listen to the music, and it doesn't have a loading bar at all. It just sits there and kind of lets you wait. And it reminds me too of old movies one of the best ones I can think of was 2001. Okay. Where 2001 doesn't begin with the credits. It begins with 3 minutes of just music and a black screen.
Oh, kind of like the classic overture movie before it all starts.
Yeah, and what made me think of Cinderella, where they have the older Disney films, older films.
And I think they both do both of those games do a really effective job of settling you into the kind of experience you want and slowing you down. Because again, that's I think part of what makes The Last of Us a fantastic game, which is, as we've talked about, it's we need to do a story mode about Last of Us sooner or later.
Yes.
Because that's another. There are 3 games that all came out that year, and I've mentioned 2 of them is Gone Home and The Last of Us. and Papers, Please. And those are like the 3 best games released like in the last 10 years, and they all came out in 2013. It was like the best year for gaming since like 1998, when like The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and I think it was Final Fantasy VII. All those games came out like the same year.
Yeah, it's one of these things that like I'm really happy to see where indie gaming is kind of going, because I remember 7 years ago, and it could have been I just wasn't looking in all the right places, but like I couldn't pick out a lot of. You had
a lot of weird experimental things, but they weren't connecting with people quite. Like one of the ones I remember seeing is there's this game called The Path.
Yeah.
Where it's very similar. It's got a lot of similar things. And there's another one that came out just a bit before that called Dear Esther. And I played both of those, and neither of them are as involving. They don't pull you in the same way Gone Home does. And a lot of it comes to just sort of the very standard way in which it introduces you to things. And it's just like, it kind of fools you into thinking you're playing one game when you're actually playing another. And that's what really draws you into it.
I've also heard Gone to Rapture is another game a lot like Gone Home.
Oh, really?
Does that have anything to do with Bioshock?
Yeah.
No, but it is about the end of the world.
Oh,
interesting.
So,
we may have to check that out.
Yeah, I may want to check that out as well. Yeah, but I even remember, like, now I've noticed I'm playing more indie games than I am more games being put out by
like
big companies.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to say mainstream because...
AAA titles.
Yeah.
AAA there you go, that's a better term for it. AAA titles. I find myself gravitating more towards indie games because they're
you can buy more of them and play more of them.
Well,
and honestly, I think a lot of the stories are better.
Most of them are.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of them decide. It's like, we're going to focus on story, we're going to focus on the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I think there's this whole thing where a lot of big AAA games that try and do so many things, it becomes a detriment to their story.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to have this element of gameplay and this one and this one and this one, because we're, 300 million people are buying this game, and we need to have it appeal to all of them, so we need to have all these different gameplay varieties in it, instead of focusing on a few choice things and making those really good and a story that wraps around it.
Yeah, and this is probably one of the reasons why Gone Home has become one of my favorite games next to like Transistor and Portal and now Overwatch. But
you gotta finish Transistor.
I finished Transistor. I remember.
That's right. Yeah, you and I had a debate about the ending.
Yeah. Rude.
Do we have any parting thoughts about Gone Home?
I need to see more games like this. Whether it's played out in the same way, I need to see more games like this that are so heavily focused in the story that weave the gameplay and the story so well together that it all plays in one single direction for the story.
I agree to that to a degree, because part of me is like, replaying it was one of those things where I realized, like, I like this, but I feel like there's a lack, there could be more interactivity to this kind of genre.
Sure.
They could include maybe a couple more smaller puzzles, or a few things that's like, here's even an extra subplot that like you will have to solve puzzles to experience this kind of thing. Like they could gate more things beyond things to kind of make it a little bit more of a game and less of just something that you kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I will say it's like, I brought up the game Dear Esther. That is like, I would pretty much derogatorily call that a walking simulator, because that's all you do, is you just literally hold the W key and move the mouse as you walk down a path, and the narrator tells you stuff, and then you just get to the end of the path and the game ends. At least with Gone Home, it's like, you've got some keys to find, and you can go around and you can pick different directions to go. The thing that makes Dear Esther's like replayable is that path changes every time, and the story kind of changes slightly. Yeah, and like sometimes can really drastically change about what's going on.
That reminds me, what was that game that Burtis played where it was the guy thought he was God?
The Stanley Parable?
Not Stanley Parable.
Which is also a game that came out in 2013.
Oh, God.
It starts with a P. It's an old Greek reference.
God, I can't remember it.
But it's a pretty good game. We've been wanting to throw you into it to see how you played through it. I can't remember the game.
But this is really helpful, guys.
I know.
Let's spend another 5 minutes talking about something you can't remember.
Well,
that I should really play.
Well, one of the things that really made Gone Home special for me was I'm not a big horror fan. I don't like first-person shooters that much, and
You played Overwatch.
Well, Overwatch is just the diversity and the creation of the characters makes me really like it. Besides, I play healing
really
class.
Just screaming at the screen.
Shut up. But also, this game was for people who don't like, like war games or horror games. This game was for me like this was a story that made me feel for characters, and it was something that I quickly loved and I wanted more of, and I search for games with very good story that engages you, that makes you feel, that makes you cry and laugh and fall in love with characters. And I feel that this is the beginning of a new way of video games, and I really hope that there's a lot more like this.
If I were to sort of leave with something that's like, I kind of brought this up, 2013 was this great year for gaming, and to me it has 3 of the best games I've ever played. I don't want to say that they're my favorites, but I recognize them as they're amazing. And that's Gone Home, and The Last of Us, and Papers, Please. And what I like about each of these games, too, is they kind of almost create this little arc of, if you go to Gone Home, it's this very narrative-driven game. On one hand, there's gameplay to it, but it's not like, there's no fail state, you can't lose, and it's kind of very, a solemn story. Papers, Please is kind of almost the exact opposite of this, where it's like, it's so dependent on gameplay. Like, you cannot at all separate the gameplay from the story in that.
Yeah.
And it's really, to me, after replaying Gone Home, it's like, I gotta go back and replay Papers, Please, because I think, one, I really prefer that. Because as affecting as some of the things you will feel in Gone Home are, I don't think any game has quite affected me in the way I play it as much as Papers, Please has.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those, like, we'll do a story mode about this game eventually. Ben has to sit down and play it.
Yeah.
So I have to too, because
it's just it's just really fast. Because to give you just a basic summary, I don't want to get too into it because it's not the Papers, Please story mode. But you play as a border crossing security checkpoint person. You're the guy behind the door checking people's immigration papers, and it's just about being thorough about checking those. But like the way they wrap the story around that, and about how your country's in trouble, and like maybe you can be helping them, maybe you can't be, but you've got a family that's depending on you, and if you don't do well, they will die.
Jeez.
Like it's incredible. It's just this nuts way of balancing, and it allows you, and this kind of comes back to, I guess, what I'd give the biggest criticism of Gone Home is, while it's neat that you can kind of step into the Katie, the character you play as, and it's very easy to feel for her or feel whatever you want. Papers, Please really puts you in the center of something and makes you have to choose things, which to me is the one big effective thing of the game. And I think maybe one of the biggest things I could say is a strike against Gone Home is you never choose anything.
Yeah, that is true as well.
And it's like, that's a big thing for games is like, because as you say, it's like it'd be very hard to tell a story of Gone Home in a movie. The only reason that'd be hard is because you'd lose a lot of the effectiveness of feeling things after the fact and coming across journals. But there's no reason it couldn't be a book and be just as effective as a book. Right. Or like, you can literally just separate the audio stuff and have that really work very well. Papers, Please, you can maybe make that work, take the plot and the concept idea of that and turn it into something else. But it would be very different, and it might not be able to express the same things because of the way it really forces you to have to, like, either A, start paying attention and get good at this game, or B, make some really tough choices about, what's more important, the people who depend on me at home or the world around me.
Yeah.
And that's a deep well. So, I mean, I want to see more games kind of do both of these things, and it's great to see, like, indie games doing this. And there are a few more that came out this year. I know, it's been a couple years since we've seen a lot of really good indie games that we'll have to check out. Mm-hmm. But Gone Home is still a very impressive game that, especially if you're not very into video games, is probably right up your alley because it's not hard to play.
Yeah, and it's not. It's like you said. It's no fail game, so you feel very accomplished at the end, without much.
Really, what you can just fail is uncovering more or less of the plot.
Yeah.
How much you enjoy it is how much you kind of really sit in the house.
How much you put into it,
yeah.
Which is another nice thing to kind of feel from a game. Is like, how much you get out of the game is how much you put into it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hand you enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also good because games that you're putting a lot in but you're getting little out of it, it's like those are exhausting. But this one, it was give and take was equal, and it was really, really refreshing to play. So.
Well.
Yeah.
Next time on story mode, I can't remember.
Or is it? Are you doing Gears of War next week?
I believe it is.
Gears of War.
We're gonna look at Gears of War. And
so because we got so violent and feminist this week, we need to get all broed up, and super violent. We're gonna make it extra mega much in here.
Jeez, and we're gonna talk about capitalism.
Oh,
it'll come up. I don't think it'll be the focus, but it will come up.
Hey there.
So thank you very much for listening to us talk about Gone Home on this story mode.
All right.
And
thank you.
Till next time.
Yeah, we'll catch you later.
Catch you later, guys. Bye.